Hello, YouTubers. This is Glenn Llewellyn. Also go by Benny Gabriel, which is my Hebrew name, the name I took when I started learning Hebrew. I'm not fluent in Hebrew. I know a lot of words and concepts, and pretty much learned in the culture of the Hebrew and Jewish people. Um, I'm really kind of a shy person, but this is my first video, so be patient with me. I found a big problem with what's going on our planet is the lack of knowledge uh, that believers are supposed to have, and it seems like there's no real information on truth that helps you understand the Scripture and build your faith. But that's what I'm attempting to do here, and hope you will be real patient and listen. I think the subtitle is Appointed Times or Appointments, Hebrew Appointments and Prophecy. Part of that is because the Bible is prophecy from beginning to end. People say parts of it are done away with and all these different things, the Old Testament and so forth, but as we get into it, you find out that it's prophecy being fulfilled constantly. The Hebrew calendar is the calendar that God used and continues to use, and not the Jewish calendar, not to be mistaken with the Jewish calendar. We'll go in depth with that as time goes, but I like to do some short videos helping the believers. I don't really care about helping everybody else because the times we live in, we need to be very focused on what we're doing and the things we're saying and how we're representing them and the things we're learning and things we're choosing to learn. But if we read the Bible closely, we find out that that God says that He gave the moon and the sun and the stars for appointed times. Appointed times in Hebrew is Moedim, which means the festival times and so forth. He gave them for signs as well as appointed times. So we know that Yeshua, Jesus, we'll call Jesus or Yeshua interchangeably because that's the way we know it. But we know that Yeshua, Jesus, He died on Passover. He rose on first fruits. And then 50 days later, which is Shavuot, Pentecost, is when the Spirit of God poured out upon the believers. Of course, not to neglect the 10th of the month, the Hebrew month, which was called Nisan, which came from Babylonian captivity, but it was the spring month that on the 10th of the month before Yeshua died on Passover, the 14th, that 14th, 15th, Bain Erev in Hebrew, which means between the evenings. But on the 10th, the lamb was to be taken into the house and inspected, and we understand that Yeshua went into the temple, which is the house of God, and they questioned him, and they could not find any fault in him that qualified him to be the perfect lamb to be sacrificed. But anyway, I'm very, very tired of what I see as far as called Christianity. The term Christianity was never, ever to be used by believers. It's kind of a mockery term. In the first century, when people were called Christians by others, it was to mock them. They're saying they're so much like Christians, or act like Christians. But the people in the first century called themselves the Halakim. The word comes from the word halakah, which means to walk or the path. They were called the people of the Halakim. They were called the people of the Nazarene, which was the Nazarenes. And so they didn't really identify themselves as a mini Messiah, a Christian. That wouldn't have come till about 200, 300 years later when they started calling themselves many anointed ones. To me, I find that a bit offensive, and especially nowadays when you ask who's a Christian, and they will name every denomination, every person who claims Jesus to be, in their life. I don't believe that. Claiming and doing is two different things, and to say that you're a Christian, a lot of definitions have been thrown around. Some of the ministers will tell you that the definition of a Christian is one who follows Christ or follows the Messiah. That's not what the original term meant. Christian, by the strictness of the English language, means, you are just like if I'm near the city of Houston, but if I lived in Houston, I would be a Houstonian. So, but that's because I live in the city. Now, to say you're a Christian, means you are what you represent. First century believers would have probably been appalled at the idea that they were, called Christians, because they just said they were followers of the way, followers of the path, followers. They are also disciples. The word disciple means student. So they didn't go around boasting that they have achieved or they were a Christ-like figure. I know the ministers say, "Oh, it means we are people who are followers of Christ," but that's totally wrong. It's not even right, because that's not what the real definition means. It says in the last day there will be many false Christs and many false prophets to deceive the very elect if possible. So it's kind of strange when people go around saying they're a Christian, and that can mean anything from this church to that church to people who totally say the Bible's irrelevant or doesn't even apply today. So they got many different groups that call themselves Christian. So when a person says they're a Christian, it usually tells me they're not well studied. They really don't know, and they're standing in very dangerous water, so to speak, to claim themselves as a Christian if they're not doing all that is required of them, all of the Scripture, because it's a boastful term even, and to say that you're in that category when you're just a follower or a disciple, someone who's learning. But anyway, this is my first video, so I hope that you can sit back and enjoy. We're going to take subject by subject, and we'll start with things that people just have overlooked and caused a lot of confusion with that needs to be straightened out. One of the main things I emphasize is the appointed times, the days that is prophecy, the stuff that was told that we would experience and the things that we would see. So I hope you enjoy these videos, and like I said, this is my first one. It's kind of strange talking to a computer. I've probably done worse, but it is kind of strange. So you guys have a good day. God bless those who believe, and be praying for you. Pray for me, of course, that we go on and grow in maturity together. Thank you.